The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle, where you can access your full potential right now. Finally break free from destructive habits. That dream life, if you want it, you can have it. This is where you transform your health, mind, business, and relationships. Or do nothing and keep your life the way it is. But if you're ready for change, you're in the right place. This is where you're gonna learn how to live a habit-based lifestyle. You are tuning in to the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with your host, Jesse Ewing. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle. Let's go.
All right, what's happening, guys? Jesse, Habit-Based Lifestyle. I want to welcome you to this week's show. And today we're going to be talking specifically about PM habits and really the art and science behind creating a powerful evening routine that sets your morning on fire. So as we get into this today, who is this episode really for? This is for the person who may struggle with getting up early. This is the person that, maybe even has great morning habits, but where they tend to lack their habits is later on during the day and all the way up until the meeting. But what I've found to be true for me is, if you really want to start the next day with success, whether it be getting up early or maybe it's not even getting up early, it's just getting up and getting your morning routine in. I really believe that it starts with your PM habits. And the analogy I really like to use is think of your morning routine as something that takes off during the morning. And so it's almost like a plane taking off in the morning. But if we don't land the plane correctly, what ends up happening is, maybe our fuel's low the next day, the next time if we don't clean it, obviously, then we have kind of a dirty plane. But there's a certain amount of maintenance that has to happen once you land the plane. And depending on how you land the plane, then that you can work on that maintenance. And so really, if you think about it, if you say two most important times of the day are the first thing that happens when we get up and the last thing that happens when we go to bed. But a lot of the gurus, we hear people talk about it's all about morning routine. It's all about what time you get up, all those things. But I really believe that where that all starts is in the evening. And so we're going to go through some rules and rituals so that you can begin to really customize your own evening routine. And these are things that I've done that have really helped me be successful. Now, one of the first things that I always tell everybody is like, listen, before you do any habit, you need to really understand what is it that you want and what is it that you want as a result in your life, or what is it that you're working towards? And then why does that matter? And I think those two things are very important when it comes to communicating and following through on habits, because, sometimes if we don't know what we want, or most of the time when we don't know what we want, we just pick random things. And most people will not stay committed to something that's random. The other thing is, if we don't know what we want or we're not clear about it, then we will overcomplicate the process. We will overcomplicate what we're doing, and then we won't get to where we actually want to go because we haven't defined it. And if we don't define it, then we don't really understand why we're doing it. So anytime you're doing a habit, make sure that you understand, what the importance of it is, what do you eventually want it to take you to, and then why it matters. Those are the two biggest things. And if you don't know those, then don't just go do a bunch of random evening habits. Get clear on those first. But every habit that you have should have a purpose and should have a direction it's taking you in. And so that's really the what is the direction. here's what this habit is going to take me to, what direction I'm going to go in, and then here's why I'm doing this habit. And so every time we do a habit, we should have a purpose behind that, and we should have a direction it's taking us in. And those are very important things. So like, where is my habit taking me, and why does it matter that I go in this direction? And so I think the first place we start with habits is like having some rules. Now, whether or not we're talking about evening routine or morning routine, rules give us a framework to operate under. And one of the rules that I use for my evening habits is no blue screens, 30 to 60 minutes before bed. I'm not always 100% on that. And so when I say no blue screens, like, a lot of people tend to watch TV. They tend to look at their phone, look at social media, look at emails, all the way up leading to bed, which actually affects our sleep and affects our circadian rhythm and throws it off. And so, what I would say is this, like, shut off your blue screen 30 minutes before bed, shut off your phone, shut off TV, and begin to calm down. The other thing is this: have a set time that you would start to wind down. So like, having a bedtime, for us, it's about 9:15 to 9:30. Typically, we begin putting the kids to bed around 9:30. And so that's about 30 to 60 minutes. We're going to start to wind down at that point. So everybody kind of starts getting ready to go to bed or do things that would get us into bed within that 30 to 60 minute window. So that means for my kids, around 9:15. For me and my wife, it's around 9:30 or 10. And then we know that window starts where we're going to start getting ready and prepping for bed. And then I think the important thing is having a bedtime. For my kids, it's between 9:30 and 10 p.m. For us, it's between 10 and 10:30. Just depending on the night, what we have going on. So I think those are really important things, that if you have a dedicated bedtime, it's like having a dedicated time you wake up every single day. And sometimes the impact of when you wake up is based off when you go to bed. And I think having, a set time of when you're going to do that, I think having a window to where you begin to get into that routine is really important, especially establishing rules. So one of the rules I also have in the morning is I don't look at my phone until I've been it's about an hour and a half into what I'm doing. So I actually keep it on airplane mode. So you may want to start putting your phone in airplane mode 30 to 60 minutes before bed, so it doesn't get you to actually look at it. And so that's a rule that you can take with you in the morning. The other thing is not looking at your email, not looking at text messages, not looking at social media inside of that window also. And so that ensures that you stay on track with that. Now, the other thing, which we're going to get into, is really, how do I customize, my habits? So we really break this down into your physical health, mental, spiritual health, relational health, and financial health. To really break down, how do I start doing these evening habits? So, generally the evening habits that you do would take anywhere from 2 minutes up to about 10, 15 minutes max. The reason we don't go much over 10 is just because if it takes too long, there's a lot of resistance that might happen in the day. Where early morning, one thing I found is I can do things a lot longer. So if I was to, work out, in the morning, it's not really going to impact my sleep. But if I was to work out at night and go to bed, that's really going to impact my sleep. And so the type of workout, the type of things I'm going to do are actually going to help me bring down and regulate my system, so that I'm kind of de-stressing before I go to bed. I'm getting everything out that I've kind of consumed for the day. And that's really the goal in every habit that we're going to do. Is it's really a habit that's going to get us to kind of regulate our system, to de-stress and all those things. So if we're talking about physical health, a lot of the things that I would say is like do lower level things that are going to regulate your nervous system. It's going to kind of bring everything down. So there's stretching, there's foam rolling, there's mobility work. Those are things that we can always get better at and improve on. Plus, those are things that I've never found somebody who says, man, I foam roll too much. I do too much mobility work. I do too much stretching. And then also there's supplements. I know for me, one of the big things that I take is magnesium every night before I go to bed. Sometimes I'll drink some tea, different types of tea that obviously don't have caffeine, but are also very good for you. The other thing is you have this mental, spiritual side, which is you can do some, box breathing, HRV breathing. That really brings down our nervous system and kind of helps regulate that. You have prayer, read the Bible, you can read a book, whatever, or you can journal. One of my favorite things is to do a 1 to 2 minute brain dump right before I go to bed, get everything out on paper so it's no longer in my head. The other thing is we have relational health. Maybe it's connecting with your spouse, putting your kids to bed, playing a game, for 5 or 10 minutes, but reading a book to kids is also super important, but just a way to really connect with your spouse or your kids right before you go to bed. And then also one of my favorite things to do is really read for about 10 minutes at night. I do actually like to read over podcasts or any of those things, but you can even do, revision. You can review your day, look at things you could have changed in it. Look at things, maybe events that happened that you would have liked to change. I think the important thing is we want to get as much out of our mind as possible and as much into our mind as possible that is going to really help us sleep and decrease stress. And those are the two things that I look at. And so really what you're going to do is take, one thing from your physical health, stretching, foam rolling, mobility work, supplements, maybe it's a drink. One thing from your mental, spiritual health. So it could be box breathing, meditation, read the Bible, book study, journal, whatever that is, relational health, connect with your kids, connect with your spouse, maybe play a game or read to your kids. And then the last piece is reading or journaling, listening to a podcast, listen to music, kind of review your daily frame, just picking one of those that you're going to commit to or creating something that is going to give you greater impact for what you're working towards in your life. And these are things that I really believe are going to accelerate your life in the morning. So when you wake up in the morning, you're going to be refreshed. You're going to be focused on these. And I also believe that changing these about every 90 days really starts to help. Now, obviously reading, how do I change reading? Well, what you can do is maybe change the type of book you're reading. And what it is. So sometimes at night, I'm going to read a different style of book than I would read normally in the day or in the morning, because I want my mind to be clear. I want my mind to be thinking more positive thoughts, putting positive things in, or maybe a different style book would help me with, more of the other things. So as I say that, I think one of the important things to remember in this is that we want to make sure that what we're putting in and what we're putting out, what we're putting out is getting everything out of our head. What we're putting in is as much positive things that we can do. And so we want to make sure we stay committed to that. So anyways, if you guys have questions on this, I do have kind of a blueprint on this. So if you're watching this, just type in habit blueprint and I'll make sure you get that. And then you can kind of go through the work on this and follow along. If you're listening to this on the podcast later on, you can email me, jesse@habitbasedlifestyle.com, type in blueprint. I'll make sure you get blueprint, but until next episode, we'll talk to you later.
The purpose of this show is to guide you to realign with habits that get you to live the life you've always dreamed of. This is the Habit-Based Lifestyle Podcast with Jesse